screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempt a mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful. Friends, welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein again and his radical evil again, revisiting something from a long time ago again, because of course the even more Epstein files have been released and people are finding all kinds of things in them. And I'm trying not to be like, I told you so, because like, yeah, I did, but also like so did a bunch of people, and you know, whatever. That's just how it goes. Some people see things, point them out, are mocked for them ceaselessly for years, and then proven right. And that's just how the foolish world progresses. So trying not to do that. Trying to also, though, be honest in that I think all of us maybe need to be very clear that this is Pizzagate. There is no difference, except that Pizzagate came from WikiLeaks dumping a bunch of files outside extra governmentally, and this is coming from the government dumping a bunch of files. Otherwise, they're all real files that were dumped that allow us a glimpse into the horrendously dark and evil underbelly of what some people refer to as the elites, what I like to refer to as the psychopath class, and what either way is pure evil with power in this world. It's the same thing. I don't want anyone to be under the delusion that Pizzagate was somehow different. And if you remember, Pizzagate is like 2012 and beyond, right? Like 2012 to like 2018, maybe. And you know, that people were still at least trying to draw attention to this horrendous evil that has infected the power structures of the entire world. We're talking banking, we're talking education, we're talking obviously government, politics, we're talking every institution you thought you held sacred, the Vatican, churches, all of it, long since infected. It's not that that's new. That's even more ancient than Pizzagate. It's that Pizzagate gave us the evidence that some people need in order to see what has always been there in front of their face, literally for thousands of years. Literally for thousands of years, the satanic power structure has used the exact same playbook forever. So I'm going to emphasize that, so that when you're encountering all this Epstein news, and when people you know might be coming to you saying, how did you know before we knew, you know, or something, that you've got that in your mind clearly, that this is an ancient evil. It's the same evil the entire time. It's not an accident of human failing. It is actually evil planned and orchestrated and carried out through humans. But it is actually beyond human. And that's how it's lasted for thousands of years, with one goal in mind, which is the destruction of your soul. Newsflash, if you didn't know this was about good and evil and your soul, hopefully you've disabused yourself of those illusions. It has always been and will continue to be about your soul, and nothing else matters. Period. You can think about it all you want. You can know all you want. You can have all the facts or not. You can be doing anything you want, as long as you know that it's about your soul. The reason I emphasize that too is because at some point, if it hasn't already happened to you, it will happen that you will be offered something that you think you want at the expense of your soul. And the something you think you want might even be as simple as food or electricity. Who knows if we get there or not? But if we do, You have to know there's something beyond your physical body and its comfort. Otherwise, you are lost. And it's the one hope you have, is to know your soul. And so other people describe that as knowing Jesus. And I think that it's also very cool, very helpful. Jesus is the man. He'll definitely assist you through all of those things and the temptations and the failures that humans are called to. All of our lowest nature can be, released or less powerful within our psyche through Jesus, through knowing your soul, for sure. At the very least, though, you have to know that you're not just a flesh pile happening to walk around in a world where some people happen to do evil things. That's not what's happening here. You are a soul. You happen to have a body, and your soul can use this body, and then you can choose, do I uphold the sanctity of my soul and all that's good, true, and beautiful? Do I uphold the sanctity of life, of children specifically, and life? Or do I side with Satan in order that my body, for this tiny amount of time I'm here on earth, is comfortable, kind of, and maybe excited? Is that worth it? I don't know. It's up to you. Most of the people in the Epstein files chose wrong. They chose their body and their sensations over anything else. There's lots of reasons why I do have some compassion for them. I've been them in other lives, and I know the folly, and I know the destruction, and I know the delusion, and I know the types of tricks played, and I know how it can be made to seem as though the world, the flesh, the body, it doesn't matter, right? What we do here doesn't matter. In a different sense, I'm telling you the same thing. In a way, I'm telling you your soul is more important than all that, but it matters. Well, it matters what you do here. It matters what you choose. Absolutely, it matters. It just doesn't matter if your body is happy while you're doing it, right? If the things of the physical world are yours while you're here, that doesn't matter. So I understand the trick. I understand the trickiness. And while I myself have never had a demon or Satan lie to me, and I don't actually believe they're capable of it, I've seen them deceive, and they're really, really good at it. Better than you think you are at seeing deception. So we have to be very careful. And with all of that, we'll get on to some of the things that have come out in this most recent batch of Pizzagate documents that some people are referring to as the Epstein documents. First, I'll ask you to go to my site, roguesoul.org. There you will find everything that I do. The Dreamwalking class has already begun. Technically, you can still join us. You can still make up for the lost time if you want to. The class is getting pretty full, but I'll allow it for a few more days. We've already had some late joins. I get it. Sometimes you don't hear about things until afterwards. So we're still here. We're still going, and you're still welcome to join us for a few more days. You can also schedule sessions with me, one-on-one tarot guided spirit guide sessions, channeling, sound healing and attunement, blessings, and more. You can come to the Lightning Oracle every Tuesday, first and third Tuesday of the month, get a message from your guides or allies channeled. All sorts of sessions you can schedule with me one-on-one through the site at roguesoul.org. Also in the shop, there is Oregon on the books tab. There's all the books that I have written, including the fictional trilogy and the source spiritual channeled inspirational message books. Those are all here at roguesoul.org. You can support me in what I do by going to rogueways.substack.com, linked to from the site if you want, or you can type in rogueways.substack.com and check it out. You can get channeled messages from the spiritual ancestors, sometimes other intelligences step forward. Most recently, Archangel Gabriel, who I have known through many lives. I tell the story of meeting him and some of our interactions in this life and beyond. And then if you're a paid subscriber, you get that channeled message from him as well. You are also welcome to just support me through Substack. That's a great way to support the show, what I do, but you also get those channel messages if you do. It's also free. There's plenty of free content on the Substack. So I'd love to have you there, even if you don't have something to support me with. That's cool. Just come check it out, be connected, learn about different offers I have, read all the articles that I write, and more. That's all here on rogueways.substack.com. And otherwise, we're going to actually start here from the end. I did this in reverse order. So we're going to do oldest to newest as far as what I have encountered in this most recent dump of documents to share with you here. One we're going to start with is a document from the FBI that someone filed that is essentially a report on Donald Trump and whether or not Israel has compromised his presidency. And so you can read this one of two ways. You could read it as this is a sort of documentation of the ways in which Israel has tried to compromise and own Donald Trump. Or you can read it in the same way, but with a slightly different emphasis of like, yeah, they tried. They're trying. They're always trying. They're always going to try. And some people take this as evidence that he is flat out owned. It's done for. He does Israel's bidding. I would again point you to all of the ways that he hasn't. It doesn't mean anything, except I would think if you were flat out owned and controlled by Israel that you wouldn't have done even a single thing Israel didn't like. So that's just my take. So you're welcome to find this document, read through it. I'm definitely not going to read through it here. It's quite long and detailed, but it's interesting. It's an interesting read. It's one of the things from 2020 that was released in the Epstein files from the FBI. And the reason that might be relevant is because Jeffrey Epstein is quite clearly Mossad/CIA, and quite clearly the intent of all of his operations, aside from just he enjoys torturing children and eating them and sexually horrifically torturing them, other than his enjoyment of that, you know, he gets dirt on anyone he can, and therefore they control people. It's kind of like a 2-for-1, right? You've got the dirt, so they can never go against you, because you could say, well, now we can just release this or charge you with it, or, you know, whatever we want to do. But you've also got, like, you know, this sort of carrot dangling. Like, if you want more of this, if you want more riches, more, you know, torture sessions, more, you know, children or young boys or young women or whatever it is you're into, then you just keep doing what we want. Easy, right? You stay in your physical body's gratification and you get all these riches, just like Satan does. And so that's why this is relevant. We also have Zoran Mamdani's mother attending parties with Ghislaine Maxwell and Bill Clinton, and he was already a convicted pedophile by then. You know, anyone who interacted with him after the early 2000s should have known that he was a convicted pedophile. He was still rubbing elbows with all these people. And so, you know, we've got evidence of that. I am also one to point out, we don't always, just because someone is mentioned, just because someone has been near Jeffrey Epstein doesn't mean that they are also a pedophile. But whenever you are rubbing elbows real close, you're up in fancy with the Clintons of Pizzagate fame, and Epstein himself, then probably you're indicated. At the very least, you're in the network of people who are willing to do horrifying things in order to consolidate power. And what is Zoran Mamdani promoting? Communism, which does what? It consolidates power. You can like the pretty story of communism. I used to too. But when you look at the actual effect in the world, which again, what are we asked to do? Look at them by their fruits. What do they produce? Well, communism only ever produces the consolidation of power in the hands of a few and the mass death or murder or both of the people under whom communism is ruling over. That's what communism does. So Zoran Mamdani is clearly, if not a useful idiot, just a flat out tool in order to usher in this type of intended revolution here in the US, which is a communist revolution, which hopefully never takes place. But unfortunately, a lot of people are really, really, really dumb, genuinely, and also exceptionally emotionally retarded. And when you combine those two things, you have a very easily controlled population. Luckily, we've had this mass awakening and it's continuing. And so we have a good chance of avoiding all of that. But you have to, and everyone has to, stay on their guard and keep pointing to the things that are evil in the world, no matter who you're talking to and when. Right? Don't scream it. Don't get crazy. Then no one listens to you, but just drop the seeds in the right moments, in the right times. Ask the right questions that lead people through, seeing through people like Zoran Mamdani. It was easy to see through for most of us, but not for everyone. We've also got people saying Trump is implicated in the Epstein files. There is nothing that I've seen that even comes close to implicating him. Way back in Pizzagate, Trump, before he was ever running for anything, Trump was said to have not been implicated in any way. Way before it mattered what you thought about Trump, Trump was specifically said to be someone that wasn't implicated, that he flew on his plane. I think it was twice, I want to say, don't quote me on, I can't remember 15 fucking years ago that well, but that he never went to the island. And if you only fly on his plane twice and never go to his island, I don't really care. So even back then, Trump was brought up and kind of dismissed as like a non-agent in all of this. So then we have in the documents a handful of allegations that were called in to the FBI or whatever tip line this was set up by FBI, CIA, I don't know, some government agency, right? To handle tips. Some tip called in anonymously or by people who they knew to be really unstable, unwell people who were not giving any information that was actionable or in any way verifiable or that mattered at all. So both the people, it was either anonymous or the people submitting it were questionable, and there was no evidence of anything. And all they did was say, like, yeah, Trump totally did these things. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, like, everyone should, if you've got a tip, call it in, I guess, right? But if you're stupid enough to think that every tip called in is real, then I'm sorry for you. That's not how reality works. So, as always, we can say, is it possible that Trump is a pedophile? Sure, of course. Do we have any evidence of it other than he said really interesting things about his daughter at some point? No. Other than that, she like was sitting on his lap once and his hand was on her thigh? No. And if you think a hand on a thigh is like weird, I don't know if you know, like white people from certain cultures are very affectionate with their children in ways that make some other people uncomfortable. And I always bring this up because in my family, we kiss our parents at the lips. And we always have, and we always do into adulthood, and we still do today. And so some people see that and they're like, whoa, what? You kiss your parents on the lips? And I was like, whoa, what? You don't? And that's like a normal thing that some people who were raised differently think it's so weird. And then the people who kiss their parents on the lips, like, don't think it's weird at all. It's not like a fucking makeout session. You just like peck, right? Like, this is a normal level of affection that has become abnormal over time to some people in some cultures, but it's not that weird. So I don't even know if those things that people bring up matter that much. Genuinely, it doesn't mean that much to me. On the other hand, I can watch videos before any of this, before you would have had a reason to wonder about Biden specifically, about all of the videos of him touching children, grabbing their breasts, rubbing their breasts as they stand in front of him taking pictures, like very clearly, like getting in their face, whispering in their ear, nibbling on their earlobe, over and over and over again. Him talking in public about children in a pool, rubbing his legs. What? Things that any thinking person should go, what? What's happening right there? It's not okay. Very different, right? So I don't care if Trump is a pedophile or not. Meaning, if he was, I'd be the first to say, let's kill him, right? Or like, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that legally. Let's deal with that legally and effectively. First person. I'm not attached to him as a person or as a leader or as a president or anything. Never have been. Well, probably one of the most objective people about Trump you can find in the world, because it doesn't matter to me if he's good or bad. It doesn't matter to me if he's a pedophile or not. If you have evidence of it, I'm happy to say, there you go. But everything I've seen is either this, just random tips called in by anonymous people and very few of them, whereas other people have hordes and hordes for over decades and decades, etc. I'll also throw in the bin, Trump has never drank alcohol. Do you think someone who doesn't even drink alcohol is likely to be so debased and degraded that they can be tricked into like honeypot type stuff? If he were to be, it'd be with like adult prostitutes. female prostitutes, by the way. And that's it. That's probably his worst offense, is that he like likes to probably, do his thing with adult women. I don't care. That's fine, right? All consensual adult relationships are fine. So, yeah, I just don't think there's anything there. And there's nothing else there about him. So, there it is. That's it. Take it or leave it. Now we have Jeffrey Epstein sending himself an email memorializing a fight he had with Bill Gates. In it, he says that Bill Gates got STDs from Russian hookers and then asked Jeffrey for antibiotics so that Bill could secretly give them to Melinda without her noticing. Remember, Melinda Gates said she was always questioning Jeffrey Epstein, didn't like him, didn't like Bill hanging out with him. She then divorced Bill when the first sort of Epstein flush hit the mainstream a handful of years ago, very close after that, right? Bill Gates has always been an evil person, but she seemed to finally realize it. Or, as we also speculated at the time, maybe she's not against any of that, but she was holding some of his assets separate in case he got targeted for, various numbers of crimes that he's committed in his life, and then therefore they'd be safe. We've seen that happen with some of these psychopath class people before, where the wives pretend to, have finally seen through them, but actually they're just doing them an economic favor. So who knows? At the very least, some people who didn't know that Bill Gates was a horrible person are now finding out because of this. Again, it's hearsay, but when you add it to all the other evidence you have that Bill Gates is a psychopath, it checks out, right? So there's that. We've also got Branson, Richard Branson. He's what? He's Spirit or something Airlines or whatever. I can't remember, but he's a rich person as well, up there in the aerospace space. And Branson told Epstein to bring his harem the next time they met. Now, was it children? I don't know. I mean, some of the people that Epstein was procuring people for, some of the parties or whatever, they were adult women. We have pictures and evidence, we have stories. We know that that's true. It's not that 100% of what Epstein did was with children. So is Branson implicated in any child-related stuff? I don't know. I haven't seen that. At least he's into harems of women, right? So again, I care way less. If you're going to have sex with consenting adults in any form, doesn't matter to me. So I'm not so worried. If he is implicated in the child sex trafficking or child abuse, then obviously that would be a different story. So, again, we always want to ask that. Just because you're mentioned, just because you're talking to him, just because you hang out with him, still doesn't mean you're a pedophile. And I was talking about this, I think, in the tarot reading for February. I think I was talking about it also in my recent episode about the, chatbots and the AI and the potential of sentience within AI that seems to be emerging, that it doesn't matter anymore if you're this team or that team, right? If you're looking at the world in this black and white way still, you've got to get beyond it, except in the one black and white way you can look in the world, and that's good and evil. Those are the only two categories that matter. Everything else is way more gray than you think. So if you just say, oh, elite, bad, then you're wrong already. You're already wrong. If you say people who work in aerospace, they're in a club and they're evil, you're already wrong. Right? So if you say just because Branson is rich, just because he's in the aerospace, just because he talked to Epstein, he's automatically evil. No, we don't know that. You have to get better than that at discernment. You have to start looking at what's the actual evidence and what are the actual wrongdoings. It matters deeply. So I don't know about anything else about Branson except that he wanted him to bring a harem, and it very easily could have been talking about adult women. So not sure. Then we have Jeffrey Epstein colluding with the journalist, in quotation marks, Michael Wolff, to obtain compromising Trump information from Epstein, which Epstein admitted he didn't have. Again, we have a fake journalist, like a fake news journalist, right, who is definitely on the team of the evil beings, and he's looking to implicate Trump. He wants Trump to have dirt, and they can't get it. Epstein himself can't get it for him. What do you think that means? Use your thinking skills. You've been trying to be, we could, before we even said anything I've said about Trump today or any of these documents about Trump today, we can go back to Biden and them had power for 4 years. They've had these documents for 4 years or more. They could have smeared and destroyed Trump, which is all they wanted to do, and they didn't. So they don't have it. It's couldn't be more obvious to me, but some people take a lot of undoing of their bias and their predispositions and what they assumed about the world in order to see reality. And that's just that. So that's a journalist trying to get dirt, not able to get it on Trump. We have Ehud Barak, one of the, what was he, a prime minister of Israel or a major general or something? He was a high up in Israel, and he is emailing Epstein about pizza. Well, if you know anything about anything, that's why it was called Pizzagate, because pizza was referenced so many times in situations that were so obviously not about eating food that you had to wonder, even if you didn't know that pizza was a code word for pedophilia way before Pizzagate, way before Epstein, way before any of this, you would still have to go, hold up, what are they actually talking about here? Because it's not food. And you'd piece it together eventually, because they're not actually that, they're not trying to hide it that much. Sometimes they aren't even saying that. They're just like, hey, which children are you bringing to the pool? Like, how old are they? So we know. They're not even trying to hide it sometimes, but this guy clearly talking about raping children. That's the higher up in Israel. We've got a Jeffrey Epstein with a bank account named Baal, the demon Baal, also associated with Moloch, both of them associated with child sacrifice. Not an accident. We could go so far down into this rabbit hole, but when I'm talking about things that are thousands of years old and groups of people who have been doing this for thousands of years, this is what I'm talking about. They've been worshiping these demons and doing the bidding of these demons very specifically against children, because children are closest to God and creation. It's not an accident. It's not just a random perversion. It's not some sort of like accidental human fault. It is a very specific spiritual war that's going on, and it has been forever. And the greatest delusions have been pulled over the eyes of the masses, but here they are being ripped off because it's the apocalypse. That's what it means to reveal, everything revealed. Here you are revealing it. If you can't get it through your head that this is spiritual and that stuff's real, you're lost. God bless you. And so Baal is an enemy to Jesus, enemy to God, enemy to children, always has been, having children sacrificed to them for thousands of years, always has been connected to power, money, to deceiving people, to ruling over them, and to eventually, their hope is to take over the world in a one world government that is very specifically satanic. It's very specifically Baalian. It's very specifically Molochian. Very specifically, that's why they cut up your children and convince you that transing your kids is cool. That's why they do all of these things, is because they want a culture that reflects that which they worship. And yes, Jeffrey Epstein was doing all of the bidding of all of those demons, if he wasn't the demons themselves. And that's why he named his bank account Baal. Oh, we also have a former U.S. Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers, emailing Epstein saying the real Vatican drama wasn't the Pope quitting. This is back in 2013. It was the bank getting new leadership. He said the Vatican's bank helps rich people move money secretly since it doesn't follow the European Union rules. This has always been one of the roles of the Vatican banking system. He also said the old bank president got fired during a bribery investigation, had 47 secret files at home, and was scared he'd be killed for knowing too much. And that's just Summers casually breaking all this down to Epstein. Former U.S. Secretary Treasury Larry Summers knows all of that, talking to Epstein about it, back in 2013. Yes, all of our systems have been captured for thousands of years. And this is no different. So just showing you, again, the veil's being released. If you didn't know these things about the world, here you are knowing them now. We also have Ariane de Rothschild discussing Ukraine with Epstein. This is in 2014. Saying this upheaval should provide many opportunities. This is prior to the Maidan coup that occurred February 2014. Sorry, shortly after the coup. It was within a month. So they're saying, okay, this coup, here we go. Russia's being pushed back. Now we have all these opportunities in Ukraine. You know, some of the opportunities they've had in Ukraine are getting tons of children, because anytime there's war and displacement and the chaos of war, you can get so many children to sacrifice, to kill, to torture. Some of the opportunities are putting in all their biolabs right there, right next to Russia, targeting Russian DNA and more. Some of their opportunities are money. You can always get so much money for war, during war, money changing hands, and nobody's going to be able to track it all. Again, fog of war. All sorts of things can be funded and carried out, even potentially the planning of a worldwide pandemic that consolidates your power for your god, Baal or Moloch or Satan. And so that's the Rothschilds talking to Epstein about that. Oh, the Rothschilds, ancient satanic family. Not everyone in the family always follows suit. Again, we don't look at anything as black and white anymore. You can say, yeah, probably if you're a Rothschild, you're probably following the path that your family's followed for thousands of years, but not every one of them. Some of them break programming. Some of them have realizations. Again, I've had past lives where I've realized and gotten out of those exact same sorts of circles before. So I understand it. It can happen. You don't just black and white. The only black and white there is good and evil. That's a real discernment. That's a real separation you can make. So that's the Rothschild talking about Ukraine with Epstein. We've got Lord Mandelson. He's the Dark Lord. He faces the prospect of losing his title over his Epstein ties. He has stepped down. I'm guessing this is the royal family in Britain, but it could be a different royal family. I'm not sure, but yeah, former ambassador to the US resigned his Labour membership. So yeah, we're in the UK, citing a wish to not cause further embarrassment to the party. Intense scrutiny of his conduct is set to continue, however, with further potentially damaging information emerging. So yeah, we've got Lord stepping down, just like Prince Andrew was stripped of his titles, and now he might even be prosecuted more. Good. Nobody should be let off the hook for evil. I don't care. Especially the royal family should be prosecuted. Ancient evil themselves. Mamdani's voters found out about his ties to this whole thing, and not because of the child rape. I'm just letting you know, that's not why they're upset. They're upset because he very clearly is in the hands of some Jewish intelligence, and they are pro-Palestine and therefore anti-Jew. That's why they're mad. They're not mad about the child. I'm not saying there are. I don't know. They might also be mad about that, but that's not what they're loud about. They're loud about his ties to Jewish, intelligence. So just saying, you got to keep your discernment at all levels. So all these people are potential allies and potentially good and could break from any of their programming at any time. But you just got to recognize, like, what are they actually saying and what are they not saying? So already they're attacking him. Good. I hope he leaves. I hope he steps down. I hope we get someone who isn't somehow involved with evil. It's possible. It happens sometimes. Who knows? We've got Candace Owens pointing out a week before our invasion into Iraq. That's way back, 2003, right? Hillary Clinton was emailing about the location of the tomb of Gilgamesh. It's long been suspected, she says, that the Epic of Gilgamesh is the big biblical story of Nimrod. It is, by the way. Nimrod built the Tower of Babel. He rebelled against God and led people toward a worldly empire. Now, I want to pause here and point out Nimrod was part of whatever else you could say about him. People are like, what? He was trying to unify people and like whatever. And why is God such a dick? And I used to have that view too. Nimrod was part of the group of people who practiced dark magic, black magic, child sacrifice, etc. So yeah, there's a whole other reason going on here. It is actually said in the Bible, but you've got to get into it with like tweezers to find what you're talking about. You have to know what you're talking about when you're reading the Bible. And this is why Gary Wayne is so cool. He's been on the show, I think, 7 times. And we still haven't even scratched the surface in those 7 times. And you can go back and find those all. They're still on my YouTube. I think they're on the Rumble. I know they're on the podcast platform. And listen to them. And he talks about and breaks down all these tribes that were connected with giants, which are the Nephilim, which are the fallen angels, which are connected with implanting humanity with these black magic types of activities. That can get really confusing for people because some of the things that sound good are also mentioned in that, like metallurgy and medicine and, you know, wearing makeup and stuff. And you're like, well, there's nothing wrong with those things. Totally. You're not wrong. But you are absolutely, you have to come back to, are they protecting children or are they sacrificing them to demons? And if they're sacrificing to them to demons, then they deserve a flood, you know, whatever you want to think about that. I don't actually think it's about necessarily God saying, all right, flood them and like clicking his fingers, right? I actually don't. I know that there's something else going on that's much more nuanced than that, that is connected with consciousness and what humans are doing with it, but isn't as cut and dry as like God deciding, right? That's not like that. Anyway, that's Nimrod. So going back to Candace Owens' tweet, Epic of Gilgamesh, Nimrod, Hillary Clinton requesting the location of the tomb of Gilgamesh. She says, you may not believe in God, but you ought to know that the elites most certainly do, and they're at war with him and his people. She's not wrong. And again, let's not pretend all of what people say are elites are in the same club. They're not, and they're very different people and very different groups within that category. But as far as the satanic elites, as far as the pedovores, yes, they definitely believe in God and they hate him. They hate Jesus. Isn't it convenient that in Islam and in Judaism, they hate Jesus too? They won't tell you as easily. They'll be like, oh no, we respect him as a prophet. We just think he's burning in hell in a pile of excrement and always will be. Like, yeah. Those people, they all hate God, hate Jesus. They believe in that. It doesn't matter if you do. You can do the whole God is fake, Jesus is fake thing. I don't care. I will only judge you if you're good or evil, personally. You can believe whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. Are you good? Are you evil? Are you doing good? Or are you doing evil? Well, these people are doing evil, and they're doing so specifically because they hate God and they want to destroy anything that is of God or worships God or loves God or mirrors God's love or any of those things. That's all worthy of destruction to them. That's what they're against. That's what the war is about. She says all of this is real, and right now you can choose to follow the satanic elite and their money, or you can choose to follow God. So her and I say the same thing in different words. You get to choose. You better know the difference between the choices. And otherwise, I'm not in charge of what you choose. That's you. She says there is no in between, and it's true. Not choosing is a choice. And you know, ideally, you've been someone who's done good and been good in your life, and then that will count for you for sure. It does. I know it does. It's not about getting saved by Jesus or believing in a specific version of God. It's really not. It's about you and who you are and what you've chosen. It's about that whole concept of like weighing the heart against the feather. Right? We all make mistakes. We all, whatever. That's why we ask for forgiveness. That's why we practice forgiveness. That's why we aim to do better and improve. We aim to do good, you know, all those things. You know, it's not saying, have you been perfect in your life? It's saying, do you understand good and evil? And do you choose good? It's easier with Jesus. It's easier with a concept of God. It's easier that way, and they're definitely there to help you, but it doesn't actually matter. People are going to hate. Some people are going to hate me for saying that. I don't care. I'm absolutely a big fan of being saved by Jesus because I know the difference it makes. So I'll say that too. So that's it. So Hillary Clinton. So again, the whole point of the tweet actually is, aside from the calling you to good and evil and the war and understanding it and choosing, is this: Hillary Clinton asked for the location of the tomb of Gilgamesh before we went into Iraq. We went into Iraq, and the first thing we did was steal all their antiquities, raid the museum, take their stuff, find the ancient city of Ur, and put a base on top of it. Where's the tomb of Gilgamesh? It's in Ur. It's in this ancient city that had been covered by sand and recently revealed. They found it, and then we invaded. And we all were like, hold up, what does Iraq have to do with Twin Towers or whatever? And they were like, oh, something, mass destruction, so that they could get in there and get this. And people have known that for years. I've been talking about it since 2004 or whatever. Like, you know, like lots of people have. Because if you're paying attention, you can find all that out way back then. So this isn't new. The email specifically showing her having requested that information is new, but that we went in for that is not new. That the ancient psychopathic pedophoric elite, supposedly black magic Satan worshippers, that they want the tomb of Gilgamesh is not surprising to anyone who understands this war and its history, because Gilgamesh / Nimrod was an Nephilim. He was a fallen angel. He was of Satan. And they want to find his tomb. Who knows what's in there with him, or if they're reviving him himself. Lots of conspiracy theories over lots of years talk about the giants and how they've been held in stasis, potentially to be released into the world at the time of the apocalypse to fight for Satan against God. Well, who knows? I'm not going to say that won't happen. In fact, what I'll say is it would be the most effective version of PSYOP that I've ever seen, way beyond COVID. And a bunch of people would cave under it, unfortunately. They'd say, oh, I have to protect myself and my family, and so I'll do what the giant says. It's just psychological. You can kill a giant. David fucking showed you that. It's just psychological. If you see someone who's 17 feet tall, 12 feet tall, even 10 feet tall, you're going to go, what the hell is reality, right? And you're going to say things that I don't understand and I'm not sure anymore, so I'm going to shut down. Well, if that happens, if that's realistic, if they've cloned them or found a way to reanimate them or whatever it is they're doing, and they release them and you start to see them, don't let that fuck your mind up. I mean, maybe that's way easier said than done. But again, if you've got Jesus and God, it'll be a lot easier for you to be like, oh, okay, we're in that moment now, right? That's the timeline we're on. Oh, God. So Clinton's asking for it. Again, Hillary fucking Clinton. This is why I go back to the fucking election, and everyone was like, you're a racist for not voting for Hillary. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. Hillary Clinton eats babies. Hillary Clinton worships Satan. Hillary Clinton is trying to bring back the power of the fallen angels so she can fucking rule with them over your dead, charred bodies, you stupid fucks. How do you say that to somebody? No, you still actually can't. They will still go through all this Epstein revelation, and to some degree for them it will be like Pizzagate, in that they'll be like, I don't know, they're just weird rich people doing weird stuff. Some of them will do that. So be it. All right, we've also got these emails from the Epstein release that some people say make Elon Musk look bad. No, they don't. In fact, if anything, just like the Trump ones, they make him look like he didn't have anything to do with any of it ever, and they desperately wanted him to. And if you actually look at them and read them, they're literally like, hey, Elon, are you going to come to our sexy party? And he's like, no, I'm quite busy, actually. I don't know if you know how running these businesses goes, but it's like a bit much. And they're like, oh, there's only going to be people under 25 there. And then Elon Musk doesn't respond at all. They want him and can't get him. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's definitely a transhumanist. There's all kinds of problems with that. But it is very different from worshiping Satan and sacrificing babies. And that matters, actually. So there's that. Nothing that Epstein files have said so far that anyone can find implicates Musk in any way, except to say that they wanted him and couldn't get him. We also have an individual anonymously posted on 4chan the morning of Epstein's death, claiming he witnessed weird happenings at the prison before Epstein's death had been identified. This person's identification was released in these files. His name was Roberto Grijalva. We didn't know that before the files were released. We just knew there was this post on 4chan that made people, some people think, obviously fishy things were going on with Epstein's alleged suicide. So now we know his name. It says an officer at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. He said Epstein left his cell Friday evening shackled in a medical wheelchair, while at the same time an unauthorized trip van arrived at the prison, which he believes took Epstein away the night before news broke of his death. Again, this is only surprising to people who weren't paying attention, because at the time we had pictures of the cadaver being rolled out that was allegedly Epstein, and the nose wasn't his and the ears weren't his. Period. There's sometimes people play that game and you're like, no, I think those are the same. They're just slightly different angles or something. But this was such a different ear and such a different nose that it was obvious that that wasn't Epstein, leading almost everyone who could look at that picture and think to say Epstein isn't dead. And since then, people have said Epstein didn't kill himself. But most of those people mean he was murdered to keep things quiet because he knew too much to whatever. But the rest of us said Epstein isn't even dead. And now we know that's really, again, most likely the case. This satanic, they don't let go of their own. That's part of the deal. You're in the club, we'll ride for you, right? Like, we're not going to go down with you. If you need to be cut loose to save the whole, we're going to cut you loose. But if we can, we're going to keep you going. The people who get killed are the people who threaten the group, like Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who was an Israeli spy, who threatened Mossad and said, I have all this information, you better give me this or else, and then he was dead. That's who gets killed. People who talk, people who threaten them, people who go against them, people who try to get out, those people get killed. Epstein's don't get killed. So we also had that bit of evidence. It's like, that's not how they operate. So we know they don't operate that way. And this body rolled out that clearly wasn't his. He's not dead. Now we know the guy who works there said, way back then, you guys, things were weird. He got rolled out and put in a van and taken away. And then they said that they found his dead body. All right. So that's been released with the files. We have the chair of Sweden for the UN, some UN refugee agency. She's resigning because she visited Epstein Island. You have perhaps no idea how many refugee and rehoming and disaster relief organizations are actually just trafficking children. Just like Laura Silsby, who worked for Hillary Clinton, who went into Haiti after the hurricane or earthquake or whatever it was and got all the children. And everybody there was like, hey, why'd that lady take all our children? Where are our children? And people were like, that's such a crazy conspiracy theory. And you're like, no, that's what they do. Then she was put on the board of the Amber Alert. CPS, Amber Alert, sometimes some good people work there and they're doing good things. That's true. And also the satanic pedivores work there and they're trying to get whatever children and traffic them. All the kids who came through the border under Biden being trafficked. This has always been about children and it always will be about children because children are the dividing line. Do you protect them? Are they sacred to you? Or are they not? And on the other side of that, when you say they're not sacred to me, you go all the way down then into pedivore territory. You might not think you're pedivore adjacent, but if you are not on the side of children are sacred, then you are. Offense, take offense. I hope it triggers you out of your slumber. So she resigned. Trump says, not only was I not friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, but based upon information that's just been released, Epstein and a sleazebag lying author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me and my presidency. So much for their hope. And he's going to sue, of course. Exactly. If you had dirt on him, it would have come out long ago. You don't. Epstein also helped fund a lavish lifestyle for a former Obama White House counsel who gave him legal advice. The Obamas are also implicated in all this, by the way. The files also illuminate a 20-year architecture behind pandemics as a business model. Let's go beyond that. This is from Sayer G. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. It's Sayer space J-I. He's on Substack. Sayer has released this. And beyond just being a business model with Bill Gates at the center, it's a model for taking over the world. So you should go beyond that. Don't stop at a business model. This is not about money. Money helps you take over the world. Money helps you have all the luxuries of the flesh or whatever while you're here. Money's great for them. They love it. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying that's not the point of anything they do. Anything they do is not even because they enjoy pedophilia. It's because they hate God and they're trying to take over the world. They've been trying for thousands of years. So that's what's going on here. And yes, this has been released in the Epstein files that Bill Gates and Epstein were working together to prepare for a pandemic that would not only enrich them, but would consolidate power. We already knew that, but there it is. The normies need to hear it, apparently. The Clintons, by the way, some of the most evil people in the world, are going to now testify about Epstein. Don't trust that. I was like, oh, I hope that they do, because it'd be so cool if they actually, if there's justice and they get whatever. No, we already know now what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, of course Trump was there. We saw him there. He did this and that. Oh, we didn't do anything. Poor Epstein, even maybe. But Trump, bad, right? And if that's how it goes, humans can lie. Humans can lie all they want. So we'll see what happens now that they've agreed to testify. Remember, they were being held in contempt because they wouldn't come testify. Now they're testifying. Now that the files are released, now they're testifying. Question that. That is sus as fuck, as the kids say. Here's a really cool thing as we're getting towards the end here. You can go to jmail.world, jmail.world, and you can search as though you're in Jeffrey Epstein's actual email, his Gmail. It's set up exactly like Gmail. You can click things and see attachments. You can read the whole thread. You can search it just like you can Gmail. It's pretty cool. It goes on and on and on and on. And this is jmail.world. So check that out. I just wanted to share that with you as a resource if you want to do your own research, which I highly suggest, if you can handle it. And that wasn't like a diss, if you can handle it. I just mean literally, like, you might not need any more than this. This is plenty, right? What more do you need to know? But I just mean if you are that person who wants to, like, I do think that's the best way to go about things. This is from MJ Truth Ultra on Twitter. She says, it's an interesting conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and Ariane de Rothschild discussing the conspiracy that 3 powerful families supported Hitler's rise. Says, I thought you'd find it amusing that in a Harvard class on Hitler, they told the story of when he was so poor he lived in a shelter for the homeless and destitute that had been financed by 3 wealthy families, the Gutmans, the Epsteins, and the Rothschilds. It turns out, she says, to be accurate. Rothschild herself saying, yes, the Rothschilds and the Epsteins and the Gutmans financed and created Hitler from scratch. Just as has been said over and over again in conspiracy circles for decades. There you go. We've got also, speaking of Rothschild, someone saying, so we started at 12,000 results for the term Rothschild, 12,073. Later yesterday, it was 11,912. And a couple hours ago, we're down to 11,860. Has anyone saved the entire batch immediately after release? Lol. Why are the Rothschilds disappearing from the results? I'm sure they've been saved. I know they have. I know hackers. I know these, even the transhumanists, Luciferians. Like, I know them. Of course, there was 70 billion copies of this made within moments of it dropping. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised they had it long before that. But anyways, Barbara Streisand effect is not going to let this go. Once it's online, it will never disappear. Will it be harder for regular people to access? For sure. Yes, that's the whole goal. But it's not going anywhere. It's going to exist forever. So, but interesting just to know, right? Who's disappearing from those results? Oh, the Rothschilds are. Oh, how convenient for you. Stupid. And finally, we'll stop here. This is Jeffrey Epstein talking to his doctor, and his doctor saying, all you need is a blood transfusion from the pack and you reverse aging. Adrenochrome, someone else is saying then, which is caused by torturing little kids to get their adrenaline up, essentially, and extracting it from them, is part of what these elites use, he's saying. They are not just pedivores, they're vampiric pedivores. And not only are they affronting God and torturing children because it serves their demonic masters, but they are utilizing then the, what's another word for it? It's called stars. Oh, thank God. Why is my brain forgetting it? Anyways, it's referenced in many ancient texts, even the Bible, I believe. Gary Wayne's the one who confirmed it for me that was referring to adrenochrome laced blood, most likely. And so the adrenochrome thing is also the whole thing. That's a whole thing. And it was interesting in Trump 1.0, we definitely did see the handful of people who were absolutely in this pedivore club, like Ellen DeGeneres, like Whoopi Goldberg, like Tom Hanks, and many more. We saw them degrade as their supply of adrenochrome was cut off, and their bodies seemed to age rapidly. And you could argue, you could say, no, their makeup. It was just that they didn't have their makeup on. Maybe. But here's his own doctor telling him, oh, if you take this special blood from the special pack, you're going to reverse aging. And we'll step back a moment. We'll say, you could just get blood transfusions from younger people, and that can kind of reverse aging. That's for sure. That's a whole Silicon Valley thing. People have blood boys, people they pay to stay really healthy so they can get blood transfusions from them and be reinvigorated. And it's one of the best ways probably to reverse aging. And it's pretty messed up, but it's not actually evil. It is okay as far as like universal law goes for you to have a consenting adult give you their blood and you take it. That's fine. Adrenochrome, on the other hand, is a whole other thing. No, it's not actually. It is evil. It is not okay in universal law. There's no universe in which it would be okay. And adrenochrome, we know for sure, is a thing. So I don't know. I can't remember who Jim Caviezel is, who's talking about adrenochrome in this situation. But yeah, when your doctor tells you to take the special blood and you're Jeffrey Epstein, well, we know what the special blood is. We know what it is. So those are just a smattering of the things. Part of why I wanted to do this today is so that the winning report isn't 3 hours long on Thursday, so I don't have to go through all the Pizzagate stuff and the Epstein stuff on winning report. I'm still going to mention it, of course. I'm still going to draw your attention to the J-mail thing if you want to go research for yourself. But I just wanted to address this specifically because it's such a big amount of information. It's such a big story. And I especially, as always, am highlighting that connection to your soul, your relationship with Jesus, if that's what you like, source, God, and your ability to discern between what the actual lines are that are defining this war here. And it is not Christian versus Muslim, and it's not Christian versus Jew, and it's not Christian versus anything. It's not Christian at all. Christianity has enshrined the truth most accurately in my experience, but that is not the dividing line. You can say you're a Christian and then go and rape children. The dividing line is, are you good or are you evil? Are you good or are you evil? Do you protect children? Are they sacred in your knowing? or are they not? And now you're on the other side. There you go, right? Be discerning. Don't fall to any of the other false divisions that are going to be offered to you over the time of this continued consciousness expansion, this continued apocalypse, this continued shift in Earth and all her people. Don't be caught in the delusion, and definitely don't give up your soul. It's the only thing that matters. And until you know it, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Glued to them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempt the mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.